What is going on, everybody, and welcome back to another week of NFL picks. It's week 6. We are now officially at, I guess a third of the way through the season. It will be this Sunday. So third of the season already done. And honestly, I really feel like we're heading into the part of the season that you're going to learn the teams that are going to be there late in the year and the teams that are going to fall apart and will be on the couch. I really feel like that's what these next few weeks, the phase that we're heading into, this is really the make or break phase. This is where you see who's real, who's not real. Some of those records that some teams may have may be a little deceiving. But I really feel like these next few weeks where a lot of these teams are really kind of make and break territory. We got some good games this week, got some important games this week for various reasons. As you really start to, put the pressure on some of these teams, we've already had a head coach fired. So we are definitely getting, deep into the, not too deep, but we're progressing in the season. So without further ado, let's get this thing started. Last week I went 8-6, which I feel like I could have done better. A lot of games in that late window is what really got me. Overall record 41-37, lock of the week 4-1, and upset of the week 0-5. I have not yet scored on an upset of the week. Teams on a bye this week. Both our undefeated teams are on a bye this week. We got the Miami Dolphins who are on a bye. They are not undefeated. The Miami Dolphins coming off of a divisional win versus New England. They head into their bye week. Look to get some things right. The LA Rams, it's kind of been a disappointing start so far for a team who historically has been pretty good these past few years with Sean McVay. Since he came over, they've only had one season where they finished under 500, but the Rams are suffering from injuries. They're pretty banged up. So they're going to hope over this bye week to really recoup, get some of their guys back. And the two undefeated teams, the Kansas City Chiefs, who won last night, and the Minnesota Vikings, who've probably been the shocking story of the NFL so far. Both those teams are on bye weeks this week. So either of those teams are going to get their first loss as they are on byes this week. Thursday night football, big NFC West divisional matchup. The San Francisco 49ers and the Seattle Seahawks in Lumen Field. A pretty big game, I would honestly say, for both of these teams. San Francisco, it feels like they got to get it somewhat back on track. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, but still, they got to get it back on track. In Seattle, they suffered a tough loss versus the Giants. And they really, it's about time that they get it back on track as well, I think. They started off 3-0. They've lost their last two. Big spot for both teams, considering the fact I do believe first place is on the line in this game. Obviously, it's so early, but you want to be able to establish control of your division early, and that could be a pivotal point when looking back at this game. But when you look at it, San Francisco, I think they're due for a win here. I just personally believe that Seattle, I think they're really not made to win this type of game. They haven't been able to beat the 49ers recently. Now, granted, anything can happen in division games, and considering it is a Thursday night matchup as well, anything can happen on Thursday night. I think we saw that last week, but I'm going to have to go ahead and give this one to San Francisco. They're in desperate need of a win. They got to get back on track. Seattle, they're kind of coming back. San Francisco here. Next game we have here, second straight on in London, the Jacksonville Jaguars. They start their mini London tour here. Designated as the away team, going up against the Chicago Bears. Jacksonville got their first win last week. And obviously, a win is a win. You like in last week, getting in the win column, always needed. Chicago, they're 3-2. This is really one of those games. It's really a 50-50 game. You could see either team winning. But Chicago having a rookie quarterback, it's still being early. Jacksonville, they go over to London every year. They know exactly what it's like to travel over to London. They know what it's like playing over there. Chicago, they don't really do it too much often or really at all. I'm actually going to go ahead and give the Jaguars a win here. I believe that it's going to be a close game. But honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if, Caleb Williams, you're still reminded he is a rookie. Chicago still has to gel. And Jacksonville, even though you don't know how good they really are, they're not a 0-4 team. And I really feel like they have to dig out of a hole. And that is really what their goal is. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to Jacksonville. Heading into the 1 o'clock window, matchup in the NFC South, the 3-2 Buccaneers going up against the New Orleans Saints, who after starting 2-0 have lost 3 straight games. The story for last night from New Orleans is Derek Carr did go out with an oblique injury. It's not suspected how long he could be out, but I do believe Derek Carr said it's not good. Tampa, I think, if Derek Carr was playing, I would have honestly picked the Saints to win this game. And, considering the fact that Tampa, they've already evacuated to New Orleans because of the hurricane, and hopefully everyone stays safe down there. I'm hearing it's supposed to be the worst storm they've seen in 100 years. Storm surge is going to be out of this world. I actually got some people down there who probably going to check up on a little later. So, anyone down in the Tampa area, check up on them. Just make sure they're okay. But if Derek Carr was playing, I would have picked the Saints to win this game. The fact that he's not, I'm going to have to give this to the Bucs just because Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler. I'm not sold on either of them being able to win a game versus a Buccaneers team that is pretty good. Now, granted, it's a division game. Anything can happen. And as I said, if Derek Carr was playing, I would have picked the Saints to win. But I just feel like if they trot Jake Haener or Spencer Rattler out, I just feel like they're not good enough to beat Tampa with that situation. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Bucs. Next game we have here, and this is probably the game that everyone is circling. Monster game. The 4-1 Washington Commanders have maybe been the story, arguably, of the NFL so far, with Jane Daniels lighting the league up, going into Baltimore. Not too far of a trip at all. Basically like maybe a 45-minute hour drive over to M&T Bank Stadium to take on a Ravens team that, after starting 0-2, really found their rhythm, has gotten things back on track, and they're now 3-2, coming off of a big divisional win versus Cincinnati. And I really feel like with Washington, this is going to be a big test for them because they've been very electric, but I don't think they faced a team like this since week 1. And obviously Tampa, that's their only loss of the season. They beat them pretty good. And week 1 was a long time ago. So I honestly would consider this the first real test for Washington this season. And I just feel like Baltimore's going to win this game. I think Washington's going to get a reality check. You're going to see that they're really not as good as you think they are, even though they still have a lot of things there. They're going to be a good team. I really feel like going up against the Ravens this early in the season, I could honestly mouth and bring them back to it. We have here the Arizona Cardinals at the Green Bay Packers. Arizona coming off of a nice one versus San Francisco. After losing Jordan Love to start the season, they've had him back for a few weeks now. They're really finding their groove once again with him back under center, the franchise quarterback. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give this one to Green Bay. Just feels like they're the better team. Arizona heading into Lambeau. I don't know what the weather's like. Obviously, it's not December, but you're going into Lambeau. It is mid-October, so it's going to be a little colder. Considering they are a dome team, it's always tough to play in Lambeau. I'm going to give this one to the Packers. Next game we have here, another divisional game. The Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. Tennessee got their first win before going into the bye week. They're coming off of their bye. Indianapolis, it was a tough game in Jacksonville last week when they had a chance to win late. Joe Flacco kept them in it. And I'd have to assume Flacco is starting again this week. And especially if he is. And honestly, depending on the fact that he is. And Tennessee's they're just not a really good team. I feel like Will Levis, they may not honestly have an answer there. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to Indianapolis. But honestly, I think this could be a really good game. I think it could be back and forth, but ultimately, Joe Flacco and the boys pull it out. I'm going to say, looking around at a lot of these games, I think this could be game of the week in terms of just how the game goes. Are you talking about it Monday morning? Maybe not. Maybe you are. Maybe, because of the fact that it's Joe Flacco and he once again has a team rolling off of a quarterback injury. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one. Next game we have here, 4-1 Houston Texans. They look to continue rolling. Foxborough, that it really feels like they're going to need a change soon. Maybe do they, consider going to Drake May here, or if not in the next few weeks? It feels like that has to be coming. For Houston, I really feel like it's just this could be a trap game for them because New England, they have played teams tough. They played, obviously, the Dolphins tough last week. They're at home. It's in Gillette. So I really feel like for Houston, it's just a matter of going in there, taking care of business, which I think they will. And I feel like if they do, they should have no problem getting the win and going to 5-1. New England heading to 1-5. Final game of the 1 o'clock window in the Cleveland Browns. Honestly, if you're really looking for a team that might honestly be playing the worst in the NFL, it's the classic Cleveland Browns. I mean, the Deshaun Watson thing has been an absolute disaster. Kevin Stefanski, I think, is in an awful situation. Going into Philly, and granted, Philly has not looked the best this year, but they're coming off of a bye. It feels like they have to be getting better in some spots. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to say this is my lock of the week. I think Philly, they got to come out and dominate Cleveland just because Cleveland is not playing good football at all right now. So I think Philly, if they, really come out off the bye fired up, they should have no issue taking care of business here. Heading into our late window and another division game, AFC West matchup in Denver for the second straight week. The Broncos are over 500 coming in and hosting the Los Angeles Chargers, who are going into Denver. 500 coming off of their bye week. And it really feels like, if Denver wins this game, it could definitely be another big statement divisional win. However, the Chargers, they started off 2-0, lost their last two. It feels like even though it's an early bye, an opportunity for them to really regroup and reflect early. Also an opportunity, for a guy like Justin Herbert, who is pretty banged up going into the bye, to be able to, get back to as close to 100% as you can. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Chargers. It could be a close game, But I'm going to have to get the Chargers this one. Next game we have here, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Another team, they've dropped their past 2 games, going into Vegas, traveling across the country, and taking on the Raiders. The Raiders, their quarterback situation, I really am not a fan of. I don't think they got an answer with Minshew or O'Connell. It might honestly be one of the worst quarterback situations in the entire league. So I really feel like Pittsburgh should go in there. Defense does their job. Justin Fields, assuming, that he's going to continue to start, which I think he should. I really honestly feel like until Fields loses you a game or 2 outright, I think you should keep him in there because he has proven that he can win. And I think, you go into Vegas, you rely on your defense to do what they do. I think Pittsburgh comes out with the win. Next game we have here, heading into the 425 window, and it is my Atlanta Falcons. Crazy past 2 games, coming off of a Thursday night, a little bit of a mini bye week, 3rd straight division game, going up to Charlotte. I would have really liked to go to this game. The only thing is just really some scheduling, things didn't fall in place. The game was maybe another week. I could have definitely made the trip. But regardless, Falcons going into Charlotte, and the Panthers, it's basically the same story with them as it was last year. I'm going to obviously pick us to win, and I really feel like this should be the first game we win pretty comfortably. If we really are a good team, we win this game by 2 touchdowns. But it is a division game. You got to go in, you got to take care of business. I will talk about it later in the week. But I feel like this is a game you got to go into Charlotte. You take care of business, and you win this game going away. Next game we have here, exciting game in Dallas. The Detroit Lions, 3-1, coming off of their bye week, fired up. Dan Campbell going back to Dallas for a rematch of that Saturday night game last year that, had a pretty crazy ending. Cowboys coming off of a Sunday night win versus Pittsburgh. I really feel like, though, with Dallas, the thing is this. I feel like, they've obviously won some of the games they were supposed to win. But Detroit coming off of a bye, they're fired up. They got momentum on their side. And they want to go back into Dallas and prove a statement. I think they're going to. And I think you're going to see Detroit come out on top in this one. I just think there's a lot of things working against Dallas in this game. I think Detroit's going to come in with that offense humming. And they're going to ultimately end up getting the win. Next game, Sunday Night Football, and not a really appeasing Sunday night matchup. I would have much rather have seen a game like the Ravens and Washington Commanders here. But the Cincinnati Bengals, 1-4, they got to get something together going into New York to face the New York Giants, who are coming off of a win versus Seattle. So the Giants, with a win, they can get to 500 in a pretty wide open NFC. As far as the Bengals go, it really feels like they got to start putting wins together. And I feel like the Bengals are going to win this game. I think if they don't, it's really time to start panicking. It might be time to start looking at, what a guy like T. Higgins' trade value could be and really throwing the towel in. But I feel like Cincinnati, they're going to come in, and I do believe they're going to get the win here. It's not a real appeasing matchup for Sunday night, but I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Bengals. They need a win, so they're going to pick it up here. And finally, ending off the week on Monday Night Football, and the Jets, obviously, they're the story of the NFL right now. They just fired Robert Saleh, Jeff Ulbrich, who was here in Atlanta a couple years ago. He's the interim head coach over there. Aaron Rodgers clearly is running things. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to have to honestly just really look at this and say, it's such a tough matchup to predict because it's a division game. Anything can happen. And, the Jets, they play on Monday. They did this Tuesday. I really feel like this is a game where Aaron Rodgers is going to have to come out and is going to have to really have a statement game. He's going to have to prove that, he was worth the investment the Jets made. Now that Robert Saleh is gone, all eyes are going to be on Aaron Rodgers. Buffalo really has kind of been teetering the past few weeks. That game in Houston, they absolutely could have won or at least forced overtime. It was awful clock management at the end. I got to get this to the Jets here, though. I feel like the Jets are going to come out and they're going to make a statement. They're going to win this game. Just based off the fact that it's hard to honestly, I feel like Buffalo, they're really kind of coming down to earth. It's a Monday night. It's honestly kind of the repeat of week 1 last year. I feel like the Jets are going to really want to be juiced up and come out and make a statement. Even after their coach getting fired, they really do have something to prove. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to give this one to the Jets here as my upset of the week. And that will do it for another week of NFL picks. And obviously some exciting games. Can't wait for them. And I will see you all in the next one.